You know what's wild? Modern airliners are so automated that sometimes the biggest challenge isn't getting the plane to do something, it's getting it to stop doing something. And today's story about a critical procedure at one specific airport perfectly illustrates why this matters.
That's really intriguing. Are we talking about when automation actually makes things more complicated instead of simpler?
Exactly right. We're looking at the Airbus A320 and a situation that happens at Baku International Airport in Azerbaijan, where pilots sometimes need to abort a landing and try again, what's called a go-around. But here's where it gets interesting. The plane's automation can actually work against the pilots if they don't understand exactly how it thinks.
That sounds potentially dangerous. What makes this airport so special?
Well, imagine you're flying into Baku and you need to abort your landing. The procedure requires you to climb to exactly 2,000 feet, then make a turn, and finally climb to 4,000 feet. Sounds simple enough, right? But here's the catch. The plane's automation system, called SRS, has its own ideas about what should happen next.
Oh, wow. So the plane and the pilot might end up in a disagreement about what to do.
That's exactly what can happen. The SRS, Speed Reference System, kicks in during a go-around and basically says, hey, I know what's best here, and starts climbing while completely ignoring the altitude you've set in the flight control unit. It's like having an enthusiastic but slightly rebellious co-pilot.
You know what this reminds me of? Those stories about early self-driving cars where the car would sometimes make decisions that seemed logical to its programming but made no sense in the real world.
That's a brilliant comparison actually, because just like those self-driving cars, the A320's automation is doing exactly what it was programmed to do. The issue isn't that it's malfunctioning, it's that its priorities in that moment are different from what the pilots need.
So how do pilots deal with this quirk in the system?
Here's where the real expertise comes in. Before they even start the approach, pilots have to be briefed that if they go around, they'll initially set just 2,000 feet in the FCU. Only after they've passed the first checkpoint and are turning toward their holding point do they increase it to 4,000 feet. It's like playing chess. You have to think several moves ahead.
That's fascinating. So they're basically outsmarting the automation by working with its limitations rather than against them.
Exactly. And you know what makes this even more interesting? This whole situation perfectly illustrates a broader trend in modern aviation. The role of pilots has evolved from being pure aviators to being what we might call automation managers who also know how to fly.
So what happens if a pilot forgets this procedure or sets the wrong altitude?
Well, that's where the importance of crew resource management comes in. In a properly functioning cockpit, you've got both pilots monitoring the situation, one flying the aircraft while the other is verifying altitudes, speeds and modes. They're constantly cross-checking each other's actions.
Like having a built-in safety net.
More like having a whole system of safety nets. You've got the two pilots watching each other, the automation providing its own safeguards, and then all the training and procedures backing everything up. But here's what's really fascinating. Even with all these safeguards, it still comes down to human understanding and decision-making.
That's quite different from what most passengers probably imagine is happening up in the cockpit.
Oh, you know what's really mind-blowing? Most passengers think a go-around is some kind of emergency procedure, but it's actually so well rehearsed that pilots practice it dozens of times in simulators before they ever need to do it in real life.
Speaking of simulators, how exactly do pilots train for these scenarios?
Now that's where things get really interesting. Modern flight simulators are so sophisticated that they can recreate not just the physical experience of flying, but also all these complex interactions with the automation. Pilots will practice these procedures in different weather conditions at night with system failures, basically every scenario they might encounter.
You know, this whole discussion really shows how much complexity lies behind what passengers might think is just a simple, let's try that landing again moment.
And here's what's really crucial to understand. All this complexity serves a purpose. Every procedure, every check, every detail comes back to ensuring safety. It's why commercial aviation has become one of the safest forms of travel in human history.
That's really remarkable when you think about it. All these layers of technology and human expertise working together.
You know what's even more remarkable? This whole system keeps evolving. As we develop new technologies and encounter new challenges, these procedures get refined and updated. It's a constant learning process that never really ends.
So, what do you think the future holds for aviation automation?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. We're seeing a push toward even more automation, but also a growing understanding that the human element, that ability to understand, adapt, and sometimes even outsmart the automation, remains absolutely crucial. It's not about replacing pilots, it's about finding the perfect balance between human expertise and technological capability.
That's quite a journey from the early days of aviation.
It really is. And you know what? Next time you're on a flight that does a go-around, you'll know there's this fascinating dance happening between human and machine up in the cockpit, all working together to keep everyone safe.